progression of AI in the recent years is that we have developed these machine learning capabilities that are able to crunch huge swathes of data.
AI is going to be one of the most transformative technologies to impact the world.
Everyone goes, oh, AI is going to help in science so much. Where is AI meaningfully helping in science today?
We're going to be seeing a lot of autonomous science being done. Imagine if you could create a virtual lab where you have Einstein, Newton, and Feynman collaborating together.
What are you hoping is the next 5-10 years of AI in science?
I do think that AI more broadly, and maybe bioagents as well, will probably be good enough to win a Nobel Prize in 5 to 10 years.
Hello and welcome back to the DeSci Podcast, everyone. It is your host, Ella. Today we are discussing AI in science, how it works, where it fits in, what the potential limitations might be. And my guest for today is Akash. Akash is the head of machine learning at Bio. He's been deeply involved in the recent launch of Aubrey, which was an AI agent modeled off the exclusive and private notes from renowned longevity research, Aubrey. They've just had a very successful launch, and we'll get to chat about that as well today. But before we jump into all of that, I thought let's go over Akash's background, his TLDR on where AI is in science, and then we can dive into the launch. Cool. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ella. It's nice to be here. I've listened to a few episodes of the podcast previously, so it's nice to be on the other side of the stage. Like Ella said, my name's Akash. I'm head of machine learning, head of AI within the bioprotocol team. I started my career in big pharma, actually, of all places, in clinical research. So primarily phase 1 through 3 studies. Got really interested in wearables and sensors, just the digital health space as a whole. That ended up leading me down a path which brought me into software engineering. I was just really interested in all of the potential for building applications within the biomedical research space. And prior to joining Bio, I was one of the co-founders of LabDAO, another early decentralized science project. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I think the DeSci ecosystem is really heating up right now. I think it's been a slow build-up since probably 2021 when VitaDAO's Genesis auction launched. I think it was 2021, but it's so exciting to see where we are right now and where we're going to continue to grow.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you've been in the DeSci ecosystem for a significant amount of time. What would you say is the sort of role that you think AI is going to play? I know we've seen a bunch of agents popping up, and a lot more sort of DeSci projects are integrating AI into their workflows. Do you feel like this is just a natural progression of decentralized science?
Yeah, so I mean, I think AI is arguably or inarguably going to be one of, if not the most transformative technologies to impact the world. I think we're already seeing this within the software engineering space. So I saw a crazy statistic in the United States. Actually, computer science majors are some of the most unemployed majors right now, unfortunately, because there's a lot of obviously smart students that go into that. But we've already started to see these AI models, these foundational research labs focusing on computer science and programming as an application where AI can do a decent job. Now, I don't think AI is replacing any like senior software engineers like tomorrow or anything like that, but I think it really demonstrates just the huge magnitude of impact that is coming. And what I would say within the DeSci space, I think in these early days, what we'll see is the AI will be a sort of a tool and like a way for anybody to increase the potency of the science they do, whether that's like at the idea generation side or like experimental like protocol refinement side. But eventually, this is, I don't know if this is in the time span of months or years. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of autonomous science being done, where you can think of different AIs like laboratory partners and just collaborating together to come up with interesting ideas and then test them.
Okay, cool. What is your definition of autonomous science here?
Oh, it's a great question. I think it's really a spectrum in many ways. So when you interact with AI today, there's obviously a lot of internal reasoning that happens. So you can think of like an automation of the intelligence process already happening right now. What I mean by like autonomous science future is being able to go to sleep, wake up, and see, hey, this set of AIs, this AI system came up with a really interesting idea. We should fund this. Or maybe even the AI actually did the funding themselves too. So like, it's not just, the intellectual aspects of doing the science, but also the operational aspects in many ways. So you, for example, within crypto and Web3, you can equip these agents with AI agents with wallets, giving them money that they can fund to like to fund downstream research experiments. I think that's part of what I mean when I think of autonomous science.
Okay, so they like can action abilities themselves, which I think has kind of been, this might be reductive, but my understanding sort of the progression of AI in the recent years is that we sort of have developed these machine learning capabilities or like large language models that are able to crunch huge swathes of data. But previously it's always been like, we can compute all the data and then a human reads out and decides to make a decision based off that data. And we're now starting to reach a position where agents or models are empowered to then make decisions themselves off that information.
Yeah, 100%. I think when GPT-3 or ChatGPT came out, was it October or November of 2022? And we could kind of see like the early potential in the space of large language models. I think ChatGPT, it was like the ChatGPT moment. But the models themselves, besides just being like smaller, like lower parameter count, they had much smaller context windows. And the context windows, you can think about it almost like working memory for a human. If you don't have working memory, there's very little you can do, even if you have like the IQ of Einstein or Richard Feynman. But as we've seen over the last few years, the context lengths and context windows for these models has increased. And I think that's been one of the major drivers for how intelligent these models can get, the types of work that they can do. There's actually a really interesting paper that came out of Meter, METR. I might be mispronouncing their name, where they described almost like a Moore's law type of growth in the length of time that an AI can perform a task. And what the paper kind of suggests is, as AI can effectively do tasks that last longer and longer and longer, you're going to see way more powerful impacts in like the output of the work they do.
Interesting. And I think maybe the next natural question is, okay, we're giving these sort of AI models the ability to operate independently. What are the safety parameters of something like that? Especially, I think, within science, where, it wouldn't be hard to imagine something just going completely off base and doing something completely unethical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really valid question, and I actually don't have an amazing answer here because I don't think anybody has a really amazing answer right now. There was the infamous incident recently where Grok basically became a mecha Hitler on X. Obviously, the developers at XAI did not intend for something like that to happen. But there's, when you're building intelligent systems, there's all these emergent properties and emergent behaviors that are really hard to predict. And I know Anthropic, the Frontier Lab, has been spending quite a bit of resources understanding this space. They call it like AI interpretability. The maybe cop-out answer that I can give here is try to limit the action space that these agents can operate under until there's like a lot higher degree of trust that they won't, go rogue. There's a lot of like biosecurity concerns that are like CBRN concerns that are super valid. So trying to limit their ability to even get there. But there's some AI researchers that think that this is an impossible problem, and that's why you'll see some people like arguing for regulation, like heavy regulation of these AI systems.
What's your standpoint on it?
I would say I'm more on the bioac side of the meme in many ways. I'm hoping that the systems that we build, like there will be more net good forces that sort of counteract and balance the bad actors. I mean, we've kind of seen this in like other technologies, in theory, the internet and crypto as well can be very like bad technologies to use. But for the most part, I think they're being used for positive use. I think we could potentially see something like that. We will potentially see something like that in AI. And if we think about bad actors, for example, bioterrorists trying to create these like pathogens that can infect a large number of people. Hopefully on the flip side of that, there's more people that are fighting the good side of the fight and like building like more robust detection systems or better like better like preventative therapies for these types of bioweapons. But it's really difficult to forecast. I would say I'm more on the optimistic side rather than pessimistic side of the coin though.
Yeah. It's one of those things that makes me think of like the COVID crisis, in the same way that, as a scientific communicator, a lot of people were coming to me and being like, they've developed this vaccine. They've only had so long to develop it. We don't know what the potential long-term outcomes are. And, at the end of the day, it's a statistical thing of like, what is the potential upside and what is the potential downside? Every day if you get a headache and you can take a paracetamol, and maybe, you're allergic to paracetamol and that's it for you. You know what I mean? So there is always a certain level of risk in any decision we make. But when we start to weigh the upside versus the potential downside, you start to get quite a clear picture. Because imagine if we could have, discovered the mRNA vaccine within a matter of weeks with, a machine learning or an AI model.
Yeah, I mean, like there's so many interesting like philosophical debates around this with regards to like potential upside versus potential downside. I don't know who the current like leading voices are on this, but like if we take the most bullish approach with like potential upside versus potential downside, I guess potential downside would be Terminator style, like AI takes over the world and like renders humans obsolete and eventually we go extinct. That would be pretty bad. But the potential upside is like we build sort of towards this like solar punk utopian world where there's just radical abundance and aging is solved. People can, the current plights of humanity are just a thing for the history books. I think it's really difficult to say, like, where as a society do we want to be placing our like weighted bets here? I'm placing it more on this like utopian side, and but I think you have to have your eyes open and understand what the potential downsides are and build systems in a way where you're responsibly mitigating any of these potential dangerous risks.
100%. Okay, I think we got into the weeds very quickly there. But I, like maybe to zoom back a little bit is, we've spoken about this huge sort of benefit that AI can bring to science, but maybe I think it sounds like one of these sort of more like obscure topics. Everyone goes, oh, AI is going to help in science so much. Where is AI meaningfully helping in science today? Like, what are the things that it's really improved?
Yeah, so I think the major sort of headline that people always gravitate towards is the AlphaFold moment. So when I was in undergrad, I studied molecular and cellular biology. I learned that like predicting a protein's 3D structure from its like serial amino acid sequence is like one of these foundational like landmark challenges like that the molecular biology community has been tackling since like the 70s. I don't remember when X-ray crystallography came about, but that might have been in the 70s as well. And it's been like the sort of standard of like actually validating what the 3D protein structure looks like. So I would say like AI, and it's difficult for me to say, is this like AI or is this deep learning? I mean, sometimes people tend to blend all
What
these
is the
terms.
difference of those two things to you?
I don't really know, to be quite honest. Like, I guess intuitively, when I think of like a GPT-5 or like a Claude Opus 4.1, that seems like an artificial intelligence to me. Whereas these like deep learning models, are they really intelligent or are they just like machines that tend to work? But I would say like more broadly, I think whatever term we're going to use to describe this umbrella of a field, I would say like definitely on the computational biology side is where a lot of the a lot of like the largest impacts have happened. So protein binder design, protein folding, things of this nature. This is actually at LabDAO previously, we were focused on like exposing these tools and allowing anybody to run inference on these tools. That's where it's been so far, like very much in the in silico side of things. But there have also been challenges going from like the computational in silico to like the wet lab validation. So I'd say it's still such early days, and there's going to be a ton more, like a ton more work to for the scientific community to focus on till we're like actually really hitting our strides.
Okay, interesting. I think that's a perfect segue into sort of maybe Aubrey, and what you were thinking, what you and the team were thinking with creating such an agent, and what your hope for it is.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try to give a little bit of background first on how this started. So this is very much a collaborative effort between Aubrey de Grey's research group, the LEV Foundation, stands for Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation, coupled with Bio and the VitaDAO team. The VitaDAO folks have been like tremendously helpful and champions on getting Aubrey launched. And what we did was we started off with this idea: how can we fund the LEV Foundation's further future research? So they have previously.
I'm going to jump in here just as well, just to give a bit of context. So on our role players here. So Aubrey de Grey is a very well-known longevity researcher. He kind of operates more on like sort of, I guess, what you'd call the fringe of longevity research. He's kind of got almost this cult-like following because he really, really is quite deeply invested in this mission of extending human lifespan drastically and not just making sort of small micro changes. He, interestingly enough, I think Vitalik about maybe a couple of years ago read Aubrey de Grey's book and gave Aubrey essentially $2 million to continue his work. So has had close ties to, I guess, the Web3 ecosystem. And then Vita DAO, for those of you who don't know, is like a longevity DAO, which is basically a community of people that has agreed to sort of co-fund and co-govern longevity projects. And then Bio is a protocol. It used to be under the umbrella of Molecule, has grown up and become its own fantastic success. But, started out as a Bio DAO incubator and launchpad, and is now diversifying, I think, to really encapsulate a lot more of the DeSci mission. But yeah, so those were all the role players to get go, and then take it away.
Great setting the stage there. I think, there's a lot of like really interesting players in thinking about like Aubrey, the agent itself, plus other bio agents. But the original motivation, if I recall, and still very much core to the central reason for launching Aubrey, was to fund this RMR2 study. So there's previously this RMR1 study. I think I might get the acronym wrong. Basically expanding the lifespans of mice, like a certain number of months. So RMR1 was like the initial version of the study, and the LEV Foundation wanted to raise more money to like raise the stakes to expand the lifespans of these mice even further. So launching an agent was at first like viewed, and still is viewed, as like a viable path towards actually funding this scientific research. And it's not just about like, the initial capital seeding. So the LEV Foundation has received in the 6 or 7 figures already, just to kind of kickstart the development of the agent. But they've also, and it's only been a few days since Aubrey has launched, but just on trading fees alone, the agent has made around like 60,000 USD just on trading fees. So kind of taking advantage of the speculation, like open market aspects of crypto and Web3 to build like a sustainable funding source for this like really important work.
Amazing.
And sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just, I'm blown away by it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting, and it's definitely, it's kind of an interesting A/B test if you think about how to raise funding that DeSci has been participating in so far. So I think the primary funding mechanism thus far in DeSci is we launch a BioDAO, where like a group of motivated people for a specific scientific domain have a certain amount of funding within a treasury, and they choose what to work on. Well, a bio agent could be something very similar, because if you have a token, which both of these two vehicles do have, you can build a community around it. So the bio agent itself is not just like a funding mechanism, but it's almost like a gravitational center through which one can build community. But it's also a tool. It's also a tool for allowing others to be able to generate interesting scientific hypotheses. I really struggle, by the way, sometimes, Ella, in explaining fully like what these bioagents are. It almost feels to me, the early days in Web3 when like people were trying to explain what the heck is Ethereum. I mean, everyone had like this, like, I don't really get this. And then eventually it clicked for people. I feel kind of the same way with bioagents. I think there's so many different directions, but at the end of the day, it's like a new primitive that we're exploring within DeSci.
I think that's a good analogy because it's so multi-pronged. So, I mean, like my understanding of Aubrey is, it's trained on his lab notes and his personal information, which in and of itself is quite a crazy concept to be making essentially a replicate of this mind. And I mean, I know that the team has done a lot of fine tuning, that even the agent speaks back to you in Aubrey's voice. It's really taken a lot of sort of fun inspiration there. But then the model generates hypotheses, which then go into their own sort of DeSci pipeline of testing those, and we can discuss that. But on top of that, it's also dual purpose in that more than just generating novel hypotheses, it's also working to, fund the research that Aubrey himself is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Maybe I can give a little bit of the neuroanatomy of Aubrey right now. So
please do. I don't even know what that entails, but please go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess this is for some of the folks interested in is this just vaporware, or what's actually going on under the hood with Aubrey? So we've built this on the well-known ELIZA OS framework. It's a JavaScript, TypeScript framework for building different agents. And the core intelligence pillars of Aubrey can be broken down into a few categories. So we have an internal a list of private documents. For example, that book that you mentioned Vitalik read, I think, is Ending Aging. The agent has been trained on that and has access to it. Probably can recall better than Aubrey himself what's in that book.
I'm sure.
So that book, a number of unpublished manuscripts, emails, lab notes, et cetera, that has been included in the within this internal knowledge umbrella. But what we've also done is we have built a longevity knowledge graph that the agent Aubrey has access to, and this is really powerful because you can take, I think we have 4,000 papers that are highly curated within the knowledge graph right now. Typically, papers tend to be linked together by citations. So it's I'm going to cite this paper. It's, inline citation 23, and then you see what that paper is. But what we did with these papers is we ran through them. We extracted some of the key concepts, key words, and then linked them together that way. So they're all semantically linked. So you can actually see conceptually what are the relationships here. If I'm thinking about this, maybe I want to explore that, maybe I want to explore that. So it gives the agent a better terrain, semantic terrain to navigate through.
Super interesting, much more human, I think.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We as humans don't memorize bibliographies. We think of concepts and do associative thinking. So that's one of the reasons why a knowledge graph is valuable. We've also fine-tuned a version of Open Scholar. It's this well-known open source model that has been trained on 45 million open access papers available through Semantic Scholar. We fine-tuned this with this curated list of around 4,000 longevity focused papers. So basically you have what we consider a digital clone, digital twin of Aubrey de Grey that also has access to really highly curated, up-to-date scientific literature right now. So more than probably Aubrey himself can keep up with. I mean, this is the magic of technology. You as a human, I don't know, Ella, if you're a fast reader or not, but I can't read 100 scientific papers a day or even a week.
I was going to say, not with living my life and needing to sort of feed myself and go to sleep and see my friends and work and all that.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be I wouldn't have the arrogance to say that Aubrey, the agent, is more capable and has the scientific taste of someone like Aubrey de Grey. But I think what you can kind of see is as the base LLM intelligence does increase, as we start to add more and more tools, hopefully it becomes clear this is not just fluff, this is not vaporware. We're building the sort of foundational architecture for this agent to continue to get smarter, better, have more refined taste for like what are promising research directions, and yeah, like we really stand behind like I'm pretty confident that like this is the top like longevity AI agent in the world. Granted, I don't know how crowded of a space it is, but I think Aubrey is definitely the top one.
I mean, well, there's been a huge amount of deep thought and progress that's gone into it. It's so interesting. I think maybe what my mind is hooking on, and I think it's just because of this sort of sci-fi-ness of this concept of creating these digital twins or clones that replicate the way one thinks. Have you thought about, like, obviously we've done this now with Aubrey de Grey. Do you see us, like, is that something you would look into, is diversifying that portfolio of AI agents, of more people and more scientists? And I mean, honestly, you could take it into any which direction, you know, it doesn't even have to sit within science to create more of these digital copies.
Oh, absolutely. So I won't name any specific names, but we are speaking to some world famous, very prominent scientists who are interested in doing something very similar with like a digital twin of themselves. It's been a little bit of a mix between like these scientist focused AI agents and these BioDAO focused AI agents. So actually a few of the current BioDAOs and, you know, existing BioDAO communities, even if they don't have a DAO yet, are very interested in launching their own agents. So we've been working on this for, I guess this is public knowledge right now, for microbiome DAO and Dick DAO, like a gut health agent and men's sexual health agents, being able to replicate, like have a very similar like architecture, but seeding it with different knowledge sources, and then being able to get them to like interact with each other. I think that's a super cool thing. Like imagine if you could create a virtual lab where you have like Einstein, Newton, and Feynman like collaborating together. That's kind of what we're enabling with this, except, you know, not for Einstein, Newton, and Feynman.
Incredible. I mean, as a concept, it feels so boundless, you know, with potential.
Yeah, I mean, like if we just, you know, stick with the real world of carbon, I think oftentimes like intellectual collaboration is meant to happen in conferences, but in many ways with these AI agents, you can, like if they have like diverse personalities or areas of expertise, you can create these sort of like infinite back rooms. So there's this interesting project called Truth Terminal, if anybody would like to check it out on X, where these AIs are like interacting with each other in these infinite loops. You could think of something like that for these AI agents, and being able to collaborate, try to like debate the pros and cons of their hypotheses and converge into something that's like a hybrid, like chimera hypothesis.
Insane. So to go back to the bio agents that are sort of going to be coming soon after Aubrey. So Aubrey generates longevity hypotheses. What will the bio agents be doing? Is it also hypothesis based?
Yeah, so they will have hypotheses. So the way that we have named this, like bioagents is the framework, and so Aubrey is kind of the first bioagent.
Okay.
And so like there will be like core differences, not just knowledge between all of these bioagents. For example, character, like the Aubrey agent was, sorry, by the way, I say like Aubrey. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it like Aubrey AI? Aubrey.
Oh, yeah. Same.
It makes sense when you read it, but when you say it out loud, it's a bit more challenging. Yeah, so there's like some fundamental differences between them, not just like the knowledge repositories, But at its core, I think bioagents is like the general framework. So hypothesis generation will definitely be like a core part of a lot of the other bioagents as well. I think it depends on like, future funding mechanisms. Maybe we can talk a little bit about what Aubrey, the agent, is doing with current hypotheses right now.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's quite an interesting pathway. You've actually, if you guys don't follow Akash already, you should. You had a really interesting tweet thread the other day that was kind of describing this whole pipeline from like Aubrey generating ideas, that being registered on chain with Molecule's protocol, and then, being sent off to Research Hub where those can actually be tested. So again, I think really same sort of thing, of really nice closing of this loop of like, it's not one thing to be generating 1,000 hypotheses, as you go, but what is that actually turning into? So yeah, please tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I think like one thing that we've seen with AI and other spaces is there's like such an abundance of information, and a lot of it is slop, unfortunately. So it becomes difficult to really distinguish like what's good, what's not. Mm-hmm. So with Aubrey and other bioagents, yes, being able to come up with scientific hypotheses is very valuable. And especially for those, like for users that might not be at the level of expertise, like maybe they don't have a PhD in longevity science, maybe they're just like a interested and motivated community member that wants to like generate some ideas. It's really valuable for them. But having all these ideas, I think right now Aubrey has registered close to 1,000 proof of inventions on chain, on the base blockchain. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be a way of like actually doing something with them. So what we've done so far, this is like a semi-automated, semi-manual process. I think over time this will progressively be further automated. We've gone through like a hypothesis refinement flow of taking mm-hmm. this initial tweet of a user, Aubrey's initial seed of a hypothesis, refining it, expanding it, and then like getting a funding proposal on Research Hub. And actually prior to go ahead.
What does refinement look like?
So it means like so the tweets are kind of optimized for like readability and conciseness, but expanding on it, like getting like a detailed protocol, getting like a detailed study budget, different reagents, that sort of thing. Something where you could maybe feasibly go to an IRB and propose like, hey, I want this study done. Or you can go to like a Research Hub and say, hey guys, I want $50,000 or $100,000 to fund this study. This is what we're going to do. So that, and then like further just like cleaning up the initial idea, making sure this makes sense, doing some validation on it.
Okay, amazing. So the idea gets refined and then sent off to Research Hub. What next?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually missed a step. We actually mint an IP NFT before that, and then we send it to Research Hub. Currently, there's 2 hypothesis research proposals on Research Hub that Aubrey has generated. Assuming that those do get funded, I think then we have the opportunity to launch IPTs. So like there's so many like interesting games that you can play on, like where do I want exposure? Do I want exposure in the tool, like the agent itself, which would also, have exposure to like treasury and IP assets that come out of it. Or you could invest in the actual project itself, like through an IPT. So Ella, maybe you can explain IPTs too, like in the sort of history behind IPTs with Molecule.
Yeah, of course. So Molecule, which is obviously where I work for, we have created the Molecule protocol, which is about bringing scientific IP on chain, which makes it sort of community governable, much more liquid. Like currently sort of the scientific IP market is glacial and geriatric and completely inaccessible. So kind of by bringing things on chain the same way, I think bringing finance on chain rapidly increased its ease of use, composability, transferability, all of that sort of stuff, all those buzzwords. But Molecule is essentially doing that for scientific IP. And it goes through a stepwise process. We've kind of created that, you can have an idea, register it on chain with proof of invention, as Aubrey, whatever we're going to call it, does. And then you can sort of mint an IP NFT, which is sort of the idea itself going on chain. And then you get to open it up to the community, and that's where the sort of tokens come in. And these tokens are, people can purchase the tokens, support the project, and then they have, governance and say in what happens with the project and how it progresses, and sort of invites them into the process of developing a scientific hypothesis and executing it, which I think really is kind of also bleeds back into this idea of really blowing open the gates of scientific discovery. Like you're saying that someone with, a deep interest in longevity and maybe has been doing, all sorts of research themselves, but they can then co-create with Aubrey and then build a community around that idea with tokens.
Yeah. And I at the risk of sounding like way too much of a hype man, I do strongly believe that we're entering this period of a Cambrian explosion of scientific ideation and being able to translate those ideas. I'm really excited by just the DeSci primitives that exist with IP, POI, IPNFT, IPT as a way to sort of harness a community to push in in different directions. We're going to be entering a crazy world. It's really difficult to predict what's going to where the DeSci ecosystem is really going to focus our efforts and how this is all going to play out. But it seems to me fundamentally from a system or organizational perspective, this is the landscape, the board game that we're going to be playing for pushing science further.
Yes, interesting. I think Cambrian explosion is such an apt term for what it is. One of the questions that kind of makes me think is do you think the next the next big value unlock as it moves from being idea generation to idea refinement and selection? Sort of if the issue is no longer a lack of ideas, what is the next sort of issue to unlock?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of continuous work on this idea refinement piece. So, for example, I mentioned earlier, all these computational biology models and in silico work. I think so Aubrey currently doesn't have access to any of these models. If it can do some lightweight in silico validation as part of its idea refinement process, I think that would be really valuable. Also plugging into more public databases, for example, PubMed. I think LEV Foundation has a data set called RAID, R-A-I-D, that we're planning on integrating as well. Just getting as close as possible to something that a legit scientist would be really proud to propose on its first attempt. I think that's going to be really powerful. But there will be, I think still being able to translate it within the lab, in vitro, in vivo, animal studies, and eventually clinical trials, that will still be a rate limiting factor. But yeah, that's I know that there's some interesting work in DeSci right now here too. I'm just not a big expert in the decentralized CRO space.
Yes. Okay, interesting. This has been such an interesting conversation. I think maybe if we're to vision cast, if we're to create our own little future, what are you hoping is like the next sort of 5-10 years of AI and science? I mean, it feels like an impossible task to maybe vision cast, because if someone had asked that 5 years ago, would you have said Aubrey? You know, but what is your hope for it?
Oh man, that's such a tough question. Like I think 5 to 10 years is so hard for me to even think about. 5 years sounds like an eternity in this space. I don't know. Like I feel like with AI and just the rapid velocity, time seems to be slowing down for me. So like even a month can feel quite long. Like there's just so many rapid improvements everywhere. I think it would be really cool to see maybe in the next like 3 to 5 years to see some like concrete therapy that is like developed from start to finish using AI tools, whether it's like using a bioagent from the idea phase, like complete idea phase, or maybe it's like the sort of operational like management of like a clinical trial, because this is a majorly expensive part of the clinical research process. You could see agents doing a really good job there too. I think there's just so many potential applications. I find it difficult to bet, but if I really had to, I do think that AI more broadly, and like maybe bioagents as well, will probably be good enough to win a Nobel Prize in 5 to 10 years. So
I love that as an
that one I
answer.
would bet on.
I love that as an answer. Amazing. Maybe question that's sparked by the Nobel Prize. Where is your opinion on if a human develops an AI model, and then the AI model comes up with an idea, whose intellectual property is that? Is it the human who came up with the AI model? Does it belong to the AI model?
We're actually
paid for the AI model.
Yeah, we're actually grappling with this question right now, with like the Research Hub proposals that Aubrey generated. So like it was initially like a human, well, I guess it's a human, it could be a bot, but like a Twitter user that prompted Aubrey. Right now, Aubrey, the multisig, owns the IP NFT, but I think the only fair way to do this, and like the way to really make this like globally owned and like community driven, is to give proper skin in the game, like give governance votes, like whether that's through the agent itself or IPTs to the humans that participated. I don't think it should only be the agent.
100%. It is the perfect solution for something like IPTs, because also then you could, give a portion to Aubrey de Grey himself, because, that's also his intellectual property that it's trained on. So there's like a whole bunch of different threads that you can pick up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and LEV does own like quite a bit of Aubrey token. I don't know how much, but you can probably find it on the Bio Launchpad page.
Yes, amazing. Okay, this has been hugely interesting. I'm very excited by Aubrey, whatever we're going to call it. I think if you want to leave any closing sentiments for the DeSci podcast community, where can they find you? Maybe just having I hope you're having a chance to breathe after Aubrey launch. What's next?
Next up is we have a few other agents within the pipeline that we're working on, both from like prominent scientists, but also some of these other communities. We're also hoping to release some like AI fundamental research here, like specifically scientific benchmarks and evaluations to like really quantify like, hey, our agent is this good. A common question that we get that kind of annoys me sometimes, but I do understand why we get it, is like, are these agents just GPT wrappers? Like, why can't I just use ChatGPT? You can use ChatGPT, but I mean, like, it's just not going to be as robust, and it's not going to be as solid of a response. we did some, very basic internal evaluations ourselves, and the results are very promising for our bioagents, but we'll have something a bit more formally published, hopefully in the next month or two. So definitely look out for that. Look out on chain for like interesting IP NFTs and IPTs to come out. And yeah, I'd say those are the primary ones. If anyone wants to follow on Twitter, there's the Aubrey account itself, X. So it's AUBRAI_. And then my X is AAKAASHMEDURI.
Amazing. We'll link it in the description and everything as well. Okay, amazing. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you all feel very inspired and go and ask Aubrey a couple of questions and get some hypotheses going. Also, maybe actually worth mentioning that Aubrey is also being trained on the questions people are asking. So, participating in something like this is also, cumulative effort, and every question counts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, literally just tag Aubrey on Twitter. It won't answer everything, but if it's science related, most likely you'll get a response.
Amazing. No getting him to help with taxes, unfortunately. Cool, everyone. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Have a beautiful day.